Welcome to this week's edition of MIAA 360. Broadcasting from inside the MIAA Network studios, I'm Jason Ketz. Coming up a little bit later on in the show, we head to Edmond, Oklahoma to talk with Darnell Smith. Plus, we feature a Pittsburgh State Gorilla Hall of Famer with a Kansas City connection. But first, if you've ever wondered what it's like inside an athletic locker room, here's your chance, as I had the pleasure of talking with Mike Gant of GearBoss Athletic Lockers and Storage. We're pleased to be joined with Mike Gant. He is the athletic sales representative of GearBoss. GearBoss, the official locker and storage provider of the MIAA. Mike, tell us a little bit about GearBoss and the services you guys provide.
Excellent. Thanks for having me. Let's talk about Winger as a company. We're approaching 90 years old, mostly well known in the music and performing arts arena. Recently, in the last little over a decade, developed products that spoke to athletic storage needs, which is the GearBoss line of high-density storage and lockers.
Mike, talk a little bit about how you guys over at GearBoss are able to customize your products to meet customer needs, just like the ones you guys made for the MIAA offices here that are right behind you.
Sure. And thanks for mentioning that. This was a sample product done specifically for the office. And again, we hope to exemplify some of the options that are available in our custom products, essentially with what we do for any end user, meaning any end locker room user, is provide a product that is specifically custom to them. So I like to describe it as we can be as plain Jane as you need us to be, or you can think outside the box and be as creative as you need to be, implementing some features that maybe you've seen out in the field. Most of you folks have been in and out in enough locker rooms that you have an idea of some of the things you'd like to see, and we like to bring those pieces together for you as best we can.
Mike, take us through the process of going from a concept and design all the way through to the installation and final product.
Sure. That, for me, is the most fun aspect of what it is that we do. And I'll use, again, this specific piece as an example. You were able to give me a specific space to work with, some ideas on what you wanted to display, and through that process I was able to, through our designer, provide you with a look with respect to the ideas you had expressed that you wanted to see in the end result. It's a little bit of a give and take process, back and forth process that I have with the end user until finally we get to a design that speaks to them. At that point, we price it, and it's a matter of can they afford it at that point or not. And we do as best we can with our conference partners to design a product that works specifically for them and their need and their budget.
Mike, where are the GearBoss headquarters and factory located?
Our corporate offices and our factory, our production facility, is in Owatonna, Minnesota, which is an hour south of Minneapolis. 500,000 square foot facility there, 500 employees, from designers to engineers to production folks that actually make what I do happen for the customer.
Mike, I mentioned a little bit earlier about how GearBoss and the MIAA have partnered up. Talk about that partnership.
Well, this was a lot of fun for me to have the opportunity to do. The company roughly 4 years ago came to all of the territory reps and said, hey, here's a budget. What conferences would you like to go sponsor, to partner with, to go support? And as a Kansas City guy that competed here locally, and now one of the Division II schools here in town that competed against a number of the schools that are in the MIAA as a player and a coach, it was easy for me to seek out the MIAA as a partner, and it was exciting to be able to come back and support what the athletes are doing and what the administrators and coaches are doing to enhance the athlete experience here in the MIAA.
Again, we're pleased to be joined with Mike Gant. He's an athletic sales representative with GearBoss. Mike, since partnering with the conference, it's allowed you guys to work with some member schools. Tell us what that's been like.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Obviously, the MIAA office has been really essential to the success that I personally have had in the conference. Just recently, we did a really nice install for Emporia State football in August. Also this year, Lincoln University and other member conference, we did men's and women's track. There are other schools inside the conference that I'm engaged in conversations with now on product design and support. So we've been more than accepted with open arms by the conference membership and by the administrators in the conference. So in looking for opportunities, all we hope is that as a conference partner that we have the opportunity to share what we do and show how we really can help you put together a piece that not only will last in your facility, but also give your student athletes an experience that they couldn't get anywhere else.
Mike, it certainly seems like you guys have got a good, strong base of clients in the collegiate ranks, but give us some other clients that you are working with or have worked with previously.
Sure. What's interesting and a lot of people don't understand about this specific arena is from middle school to professional leagues. All those folks have facilities. They all have locker rooms to support their student athletes. So it doesn't matter if it's Rockhurst High School here locally in Kansas City or Blue Valley North for that matter, or an Emporia State or Washburn or UMKC or Sacramento Kings who we just got done last year, or a couple of the NFL teams that we're currently working with. If you have a locker room space, we want to provide you with a product to support what your athletes are doing in that space.
Thanks again to Mike Gant of GearBoss Athletic Lockers and Storage for joining us. We're going to take a quick time out, but much more MIAA 360 coming up right after this.
The American dream to me as an immigrant means having the opportunities that my parents didn't have. Being the first one in my family to graduate, it meant everything my parents sacrificed for me to get to this point. It was paying off.
Estoy muy orgulloso de Michael por haberse graduado de colegio.
My path to a college degree would have been completely different had I not had a scholarship. It just relieved a lot of the financial burden.
Welcome back into this week's edition of MIAA 360. I'm pleased to be joined via Skype right now with Darnell Smith. He is the Assistant Athletic Director for Compliance at the University of Central Oklahoma. Darnell, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. Just to get going here, you're a San Antonio, Texas native, two-year starter in the football team at Oklahoma State. Talk about your time as a Cowboy there down in Stillwater.
Well, I was definitely very fortunate to be the recipient of a full scholarship, and being a student athlete there, the atmosphere, the fans, the coaches, it was all great. And just to take advantage of the academics as well as the athletics, it was 4 years, but the time went by very quickly. It was over before I knew it, but when I look back on it, I had one of the best times of my life being a student athlete there.
Yeah, you were a defensive end there and a two-year starter on the football team. You did your graduate work in compliance. Was there a time during your 4 years that you knew you wanted to go in to the administrative side of athletics?
Yeah, definitely a great question. So when I was a student athlete, I said that I want to be an athletic director. Just from my time and the experiences that I've had there, I said this is something I want to continue on. I want to make a career of it. So luckily enough for me, I had individuals that invested in me that said, believed enough in me that, hey, yes, you can do that. And I said, well, what's the quickest way that I can get in, right? Because we want to make sure we can get to the top, but try to find that the quickest way. They said, well, compliance touches everything. And it's an opportunity for you to get involved behind the scenes and know how things work. So I said, well, sure, let me just try that. And so a good friend of mine an administrator that was at Oklahoma State allowed me to do an internship as a graduate student in compliance to get my feet wet. And from there, I just took it and ran with it.
We'll get to some of your accolades and some of the committees that you're a part of now in just a minute. But I want to go back a little bit. So you get done with your your graduate stuff at Okie State, and then you go to Colorado Springs, Colorado, and you work with the USOC for a while, and specific with the Paralympics. Talk about that experience.
Well, again, just a person who's been able to take advantage of some opportunities, and I'm thankful for those who took the time and saw and invested in me. I initially I looked at the NCAA internship, a postgraduate internship, and unfortunately I did not get that. And I was talking with some administrators and some folk about at Oklahoma State about my future and opportunities. And someone approached me with a chance to work at the United States Olympic Committee, still working in athletics, maybe just not collegiate athletics, but an opportunity to understand the business, if you will. And I was like, well, yeah, how can I do that? So Jim Shear, who was the CEO of the Olympic Committee at the time, was good friends with an individual that I knew at Oklahoma State. They kind of put me in contact, and based off of my resume and after the interview, they liked what they saw and what they heard. They gave me the opportunity to serve as a management development trainee. And basically what that is it gave me an opportunity to work for a period of 1 year and in 3 different locations within the Olympic Committee. One being athlete services, the other being the Paralympic Committee. And before I transitioned to the third, I took the opportunity at the University of New Mexico. But working with the Paralympic Committee in 2008, I had the opportunity to work Paralympic processing. So before the Olympic and Paralympic team takes off for the games, they have to process, they have to get their gear, they have to make sure that they coordinate their travel arrangements at a location. Just so happens in 2008, for the Paralympic Committee, it was in Colorado Springs. So for me, just to learn that world and understand and be immersed in that world really allowed me to grow. And it just educated me and allowed me to experience certain things that was just insightful and eye-opening.
Again, we're pleased to be joined with Darnell Smith. He is the Assistant Athletic Director for Compliance at the University of Central Oklahoma. Darnell, you just mentioned a little bit about going to the University of New Mexico, and you did that right after your time at the USOC. You were the Director of Compliance there. You're certainly in that same role now at UCO. What's the biggest challenge that compliance officers face in a collegiate program?
But I got to tell you, I mean, for me personally, one of the biggest challenges is just staying consistent and up to date with this growing and changing legislation. For example, social media is right there at the top, and any compliance administrator that's listening probably is shaking their head that that's definitely a field and area that continues to grow and that we have to be able to adapt and adjust. So for me, I love challenges. I love the opportunity. I love the fact that compliance is never stagnant, that there's ups and downs, but that's with everything. But facing those challenges head on in this position, knowing that you're adding to the change and you're able to create change is exciting. And so social media definitely being one. Also, as I mentioned, with the staying up to date with the constant changes in legislation. And then, we do have some coaches that have demands, and just trying to make sure that you meet the demands of not only your coaches, but the staff, the president, and key constituents to the campus. So it's a balancing act.
Now, and you mentioned a little bit earlier about how you wanted to become an athletic director yourself, and you've really gotten a training process right now with the NCAA Pathways program. You're currently going through that right now. Tell us how that experience has been for you.
It's been one of the most transformative experiences that I've had in my tenure as an athletic administrator. The Pathway program, for those that are not aware, is designed to be able to take mid to senior level administrators who aspire to become athletic directors, give them the tools and the skill sets, and take them through this educational based learning program, and hopefully in hopes that they can ascend to the ranks of an athletic director. And one of my goals is to become an athletic director. I go back to when I was at Oklahoma State. Just my experiences and my time really made me believe that I can also have an impact on future kids and future student athletes' lives the way that someone had an impact on me. So with the Pathway program, it goes for 1 year, and so far it's been phenomenal. Like I said, very transformative. I get to partner with other future leaders of this industry who will ascend to become athletic directors or commissioners or SWAs, etc. And to know that there's like-minded individuals that I can lean on and that I can grow from is exciting. So, and they also partner me with a mentor or two. So one of my mentors is an athletic director at Louis State, Clyde Dowdy. And my other mentor is the president at Pittsburgh State, Dr. Steve Scott. Exactly.
Again, we're pleased to be joined with Darnell Smith, Assistant AD for Compliance at UCO. Darnell, you've certainly done a lot on campus at UCO in your time there, but you've also been a part of a lot of national committees, especially at the D2 level. I want to focus in specifically on the D2 Ethnic Minority and Women's Internship Grant Committee that you're a member of currently. Why is being a part of this committee so important to you?
Well, it's definitely important. One of the things that I'm a big advocate for is providing opportunities for the next person. And especially being an ethnic minority myself, in looking at ways that I can ascend or become an athletic director, I want to in turn help the next person. And so when I saw that the internship grant committee was forming, and it's been in existence for about, I think it's 3 years now, and I was like, well, I want to be a part of something special. I think that being able to say that you were a part of creating change, or that you were a part of investing in someone's life and into their career aspirations. I mean, there's no words that can express just the feeling that you get from changing someone's life. And even though it's through the institutions seek out these positions so that they can address their needs, but also address needs of diversity and inclusion, but provide opportunities for ethnic minorities so that they can have their careers in intercollegiate athletics. And so, again, being an ethnic minority, I want to be able to help others be able to find their jobs, find their careers within this industry.
Absolutely, and obviously you're a big proponent and a big supporter of changes on the administrative level of athletics, but you've also done a lot within the student athlete portion of it as well. You were just a part of Student Athlete Leadership Forum. Talk a little bit about this and how it's able to service those student athletes.
Oh yeah, and that's a great question, and thank you for asking that. With the Student Athlete Leadership Forum, I was a participant at the Student Athlete Leadership Forum, and to give a little context, it's an opportunity for within Division I, Division II, Division III, for student athletes to congregate into one area and learn from industry leaders and learn from facilitators aspects of leadership. In turn, the idea is to take this back to their campus and holistically develop themselves. So for me, just being a part of that, and I was a facilitator this year. As a participant last year, I said, this is special, this is great, learn more about this. I wanted to challenge myself to be able to facilitate because it's all about the future. It's all about the student athletes and students and what they can contribute. So as for this year as a facilitator, I was Team Pink, and we had about 35 individuals in that classroom setting. But it was one of the most transformative experiences that I've had. Kids really opened up. Administrators were in the room as well. They really opened up, and I learned so much from them just being in that space. And the idea is that I'm not going to be the one that teaches them about leadership. In turn, they're going to teach each other, and I'm going to learn from them. and that's exactly what I did.
Great stuff. Darnell Smith, he's the Assistant Athletic Director for Compliance at the University of Central Oklahoma. Darnell, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it, and go Broncos, right?
All right, go Broncos. I appreciate it. Thank you again, everybody.
Being a champion takes more than talent, more than the perfect pass, more than using your head. Being a champion takes the spirit to always push harder, the ability to overcome any hurdle, and the fire to be the best. Welcome to Division II, where the pursuit is yours to create. And the question isn't, can you do it? It's, will you?
Welcome back to MIAA 360. It's time now for us to feature a Pittsburgh State Gorilla Hall of Famer who made a name for himself right here in Kansas City. Let's meet Dave Kendall. Dave, just to get us going, tell us why you chose to go to Pittsburgh State University.
Well, in fact, it even goes back because I was born in Pittsburgh when my dad was in school down there. He was a school teacher. My grandparents lived down there and spent a lot of time in the summers helping my grandparents. They used to own a store, then they both went to work for the university. And Pittsburgh's been my second home. And obviously decided to go to school down there.
Dave, how did you get involved with the athletic training program at Pitt State?
I ended up with that. Times have changed though. Now I went what they call through the apprenticeship program, which you can't do anymore. Now you have to go through a 4-year institution. But had known the athletic trainer down there, Al Ordelani, who was also in school with my dad for probably about a year, and actually went to started in pre-med. After about 2 semesters, I decided that another 10 or 12 years of school wasn't going to cut it for me. And I liked athletics, and I was working in the training room, and went on at that time to major in physical education and work for Al as a student athletic trainer and work towards my certification.
Tell us a little bit about your relationship and how much of an impact Al had on your career.
Al was obviously my second dad. He praised me, and he also chewed me out when I needed it. Excellent. You couldn't ask for a better mentor, and primarily a very good friend, as is all his family. I think it was the spring of '72, we played in the NAIA basketball tournament, which at that time was at Municipal Auditorium. And he introduced me to the Chiefs trainer at the time, Wayne Rudy, and asked if I could go to work for the Chiefs training camp, and I did that for the summers of '72 through '74. And at that time, Wayne didn't have a full-time assistant, and they wanted to put somebody on as a seasonal intern, so I did that for a couple of years, went back and finished my degree, and then when I graduated, was hired full-time at the Chiefs at the time.
Are there any special memories that you can think of looking back on your time working for the Chiefs?
Well, there's several great moments that we had. One of the best memories that I have is we played a preseason game in Berlin in 1990. We spent a week in Berlin, which at that time had just gone through the change of politically, and the Berlin Wall was coming down. So while we were there, we obviously toured Berlin and even got to go into the eastern side of Berlin, which people in the United States hadn't been able to do. And we each got to chop a piece of a part of the wall down. Saw Checkpoint Charlie being taken down, and all these, it was interesting, all these things that you saw in history and even saw in books, you thought, wow, that was really there.
Now, as your career went on with the Chiefs, tell us how you paid it forward to give that next generation of athletic trainers the same opportunities that you had.
Yes, we for every training camp we hired anywhere from 6 to 8 student trainers. I tried to hire one a year from Pitt State and pay back to Pitt State what they had offered me to do. And a couple of them, not from Pitt State, but some of the kids have gone on to athletic training careers at colleges and universities. There are some student trainers that we had that are now in the professional ranks. Jim Maurer is the head athletic trainer in Dallas. I can't remember what year he was there, but he spent a summer with us. So I've always enjoyed helping young kids get in the athletic training profession. I used to ask them after the training camp what they thought about professional sports. Probably about 80% of them said they didn't want anything to do with it. It was too hard to work and too long hours. But a lot of them, probably about 80% of them, stayed in athletic training.
Now, Dave, even though you've been retired for a few years now, you still work on game days at Arrowhead, correct?
Today, I work with the visiting team sidelines, just kind of oxygen them, helping them out. It's great because I can get there a couple hours before the game, leave an hour after the game, and not have to worry about who got hurt or any stresses of the jobs anymore. I also, when I was still the head athletic trainer there, Pitt State and Northwest started playing their games there, and kind of became a medical liaison for their games there at Arrowhead.
Speaking of the MIAA, after you retired from the Chiefs, you became more involved with volunteering for the conference at various events. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, it was right after I retired, and Dr. Bo Richter was the athletic director at Northwest. And I went up to him before the game at Arrowhead one day, and I said, Dr. Bob, is there anything, can I help with the MIAA basketball tournament? Because I believe it just started in Kansas City a year or two before. And he said, well, I don't know, Jim Johnson's the commissioner, let's go over and I'll introduce you to Jim and see what he has to say. So I met Jim. Dr. Bob mentioned the fact that Dave would like to help with the basketball tournament, and Jim shook my hand and said, you're hired. So then I started working for the basketball tournament.
Speaking of the basketball tournament, tell us about your role that you continue to have during that weekend.
A lot of it was just contacting people in case something would happen, but also helping the teams. I wanted to make sure that it was a type of kind of a big event for the players and the staffs, and I wanted to kind of upgrade it to the fact where the athletic trainers came there, took care of their teams, didn't have to worry about water and Gatorade and towels on the benches like they have to do for their home games, and make it seem more like a tournament type atmosphere for them.
How does it feel to be a 2016 inductee to the Pittsburgh State Athletic Hall of Fame?
Well, first of all, I was greatly surprised. It means a world to me because I mean, Pitt State is, part of my home. I was also the third member of my family to be inducted in the Athletic Hall of Fame, which I don't think has been done. But it was an honor that I totally didn't expect, and it still gives me goosebumps to think about it.
Now, with your family's lineage to Pittsburgh State, you would think your children would go there as well, but you had a daughter that went to Northwest Missouri State.
3 or 4 times a year, whenever they play, my daughter's a graduate. Kristen is a graduate of Northwest Missouri. So between Northwest and Pitt State games, there's always a little banter going on about who's going to win or whatever. And unfortunately, even though I put her through school, Pitt State, Northwest has prevailed a little bit more in football than Pitt has over the last few years. So I've had to supply her with some extra dinners, even 15 years out of college, which I can't quite figure out how that works, but hey, it's all part of being a dad.
How much have you enjoyed working with the MIAA conference?
Absolutely. I've enjoyed the relationships not only with the office, but the thing that I liked more than anything else, and liked working the basketball tournament, I was able to visit with the trainers during some of their downtime, their shoot around, and that I used to do when I was working, because I call a lot of them for information on their players prior to the draft that we had on our draft board or were interested in. And then I kind of lost that ability to being able to talk to athletic trainers who were doing the same things that I did, went through the same problems, the stresses, everything else. I missed that association of being able to visit with other athletic trainers, and that's why also I like doing the Chiefs game, because it gives me a chance to see a lot of great friends that I was able to develop through my years of the National Football League.
A special thanks again to Dave Kendall for joining us. And that's our show for this week. From all of us here at the MIAA Network, I'm Jason Ketz. And until next time, bring your A game.